Welcome everybody from the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. It's great to have you here today. Once again, we're looking at our urban parking system that's been designed and developed in Enterprise Architect. Our recent video series on requirements modeling and management has been looking at a range of different topics, everything from Kanban diagrams to internal requirements and much, much more. But today we're going to continue that and have a look at requirements baselines. My name's Scott Hebbard. I'm joined by Stephen McGuire. And welcome, Stephen. What can you tell us about requirements baselines in Enterprise Architect and how you can manage and work on those baselines?
Thanks for the introduction, Scott. Always a pleasure to be here. And we are going to talk about baselines. So I guess the word that comes up is versions. So we're going to be looking at how baseline can help us with different versions of our requirements. As always, Scott, I like to set my perspective. I've been working on some Archimate projects earlier today. I'm going to drop that down now and choose requirements, the requirements perspective set, and then requirements. The tool changes its focus. The builder page comes up. We get a number of requirement patterns there. You can inject those into your model, getting great productivity gains. That's not just true of requirements. There are thousands of patterns in there for all sorts of different disciplines and languages. I'm going to close the builder page now, Scott, and get stuck into this topic of requirements baselines. So baselines take a snapshot of a particular part of your model, the part that you select, and it then makes a copy which it stores inside the repository, although we'll come back to that. There are some other options there with our reusable asset server. But the common thing to do is to select a package you want to do a baseline for. So the packages, remember, divide the repository up into a number of sections, very much like your favorite file explorer, where you've got folders there and you create different folders and you nest folders inside other folders. So here we've got here, for example, strategic models, and we've got value chain organization chart, decision trees and things. Under our requirements model here, we have a number of packages. One of them is functional requirements that we've been looking at, and then business rules, pay station requirements, and product management there. We're going to focus on these functional requirements. You notice they're all nested underneath that particular package, functional requirements. So with the package selected, I'm going to go to the design ribbon. So the second ribbon along there, I'm going to go to the package panel, and the third item in from the left here, manage, and I'll choose here, manage baselines. So I'll select that, and the window panel there is empty, Scott, and that means that I don't currently have any baselines for this particular package. Now, the business context for this is imagine that you've had a stakeholder workshop, you've recorded their information in a mind map diagram, and we covered that in a previous video. I encourage you to go back and look at that if you haven't seen that. Then we've done some analysis on those mind map in topics, and we've created requirements structured in ways like the system must do this, the system must do something else. So now we've gone back to the stakeholders and shown them the requirements mapped to their particular concerns, and we've perhaps made some adjustments to them, and we now want to move forward. So all I can do is say new baseline. So options here on the right hand side, the important one at this stage is new baseline. So you can see the name is the functional requirements package there, the name. I have to give it a version. So I'm going to say it's 1.0 is my version. And there are an option here to include sub packages. We don't have any sub packages, but let's just leave that checked anyway. And now we've got a note in here. So I'm going to say after initial sign off workshop. And it gives me some baseline details there, and I'll leave those there. So after the initial sign-off workshop, and I'll say OK to that. The tool then has done some work, and it's done a baseline, so it's kept a record. Think of it like the tool has taken a snapshot or a photograph of that repository exactly as it was at this point in time. So we go close there, and so we don't need to do anything. And now let's have a look at our requirements now, and let's make some changes to our requirements. So imagine that we've moved on from that initial workshop, and now some of the things that the stakeholders said in that workshop, we may not have made the changes in front of them. We could have, but let's just say now that we're working either with the stakeholders now or back at with our own team. And we're going to look at these functional requirements, and let's change some things in here. So let's have a look at this one here, and we've got book parking session there, and we've got the display panel. Let's change the name of this book parking session element. Over here in the properties window, you can see that I've got the name of that. It's got an auto counter there. It's DPMS -011. So and it's got book parking session. Let's change this one from book to reserve.
Okay.
And so, one of the stakeholders said that they wanted to use that word. They want to make it more like a some sort of travel system where they're booking things, making reservations. So let's say reserve parking session. Obviously, this is not street parking. This might be something like event parking, right? Where someone's going to a large event and they want to book a car park very close to the event, so they don't have to walk. They might have someone with some impairment. Someone might have crutches or something. So that's what that's about. Let's do that. Now let's also change this now from in progress, so the status there from in progress, and let's say, look, we need to go back now, and it's been approved, but that's where the status is. And now let's go into the display panel one there, and let's have a look at this one here, and we've got the display visibility. Let's have a look. Time display, payment display, and display visibility there. And let's put in for our display panel. Generally, let's make the system provide clear and weatherproof touchscreen display that allows the user to interact with the parking meter and display information relevant to the user. So let's change that.
Change the spelling.
Yeah, so that's popped up. And let's put in here the displays must be multilingual.
Yeah. Now, does the enterprise architect even pick up changes to element notes in the baseline?
Well, let's have a look, Scott, and see what it does. And the other thing is, just while we're talking about languages, the enterprise architect is a multilingual application, and you can use all sorts of facilities to translate this. So if you had teams working in another part of the world, speaking language like French or German, or for that matter lots and lots of different languages, it could translate these. But we're talking about the multilingual display for our car parking system. So let's have a look at that display panel there, and let's change something else here, the availability one there, and let's change the difficulty there from high, so that we've conquered that a little bit. So we've made some changes to that. Notice we haven't made any diagram changes at the moment. I'm going to pop my toolbox away because I'm not using that at the moment, so that will give me a little bit more room there. Now I'm going to go back into my functional requirements. So I select the package that I was working on before, again to the design ribbon, the package panel, the manage item, and let's go in here and say manage baselines. And you can see that we do have a baseline there, and you can see that it was functional requirements version 1 and after the initial sign-off workshop. Now we've got this option which has been enabled, show differences. So let's have a look at that, and we'll show the differences. What this is doing, Scott, is it's comparing the current state of our model to the state that was baselined. So the state that baseline was before we started making these changes. We took a snapshot of that state, and so that's the comparison that's occurring. Let's go show differences, and now we can see that there are a number of things that have been changed. So you asked specifically about the notes there, and you can see that has changed. You can quickly scan that and see that this one is the display must be multilingual, and this one doesn't have that there. So that's been changed, and let's have a look at this one here, and you can see that we've changed the name from in the model, it's reserve parking. So that's what we've currently got. When it says in the model, it's our current position for that package. And this one says that the book parking session was the original name. So quite useful there. And then this one says approved, and we change it to...
On the left-hand side, it shows you the element has changed. And then on the right-hand side, it shows you all of the changes that have happened to that particular element.
Yeah, exactly, Scott. Exactly. So, so that's useful. Let's go and do something else in here. So we'll leave that for the moment, and we'll do something. We'll come back to these little blue dots here. So we'll close that baseline, and we'll come back and look at some of the details. Let's have a look at our functional requirements again, and let's look at one of our requirements here. And we'll put our toolbox back again, and let's say that we're going to add a functional requirement here, and we'll go to our requirements toolbox there, and we'll drag a requirement on, and we'll put it directly under here, and let's put something in here. It's gone in its requirement one. We don't have the auto numbering turned on for this at the moment, so let's not worry too much about that. But we'll put a requirement here that's called space optimization. So this is space optimization. So the system must calculate the optimal use of parking spaces to maximize revenue returns, maximize revenue. So that's our new requirement. It's gone into the model there, and
you just put it into the package. You haven't necessarily put it into a diagram at this stage.
No, I haven't put it into the diagram. The baseline can look at diagrams as well. We'll cover that in just a minute, but we've just put it in there as that space optimization one there. And now let's look at this other requirement here, system checks. Let's check and see whether this one is in any diagrams. It's in that Kanban diagram. Let's do something here, and let's delete this one. So let's say that, the stakeholder meeting came up and they said, look, we wanted that new requirement, that space allocation optimization requirement, but we don't want this system check one. We're going to delete that requirement. So let's delete that from the package. And it says be careful, and warning any child elements might be removed. So let's just go no and follow that prompt. We'll go to our traceability window, Scott, and see what it's traced to. And you can see it's actually not traced to anything, so don't have to be concerned there. If I was to pick something else, you can see if one of the stakeholders said, let's
use cases and others.
You need to be more careful of that. But the system check one isn't. So we're free to delete that now. Let's say yes to that. It's gone. Now let's go back to our baseline. So functional requirement there, and let's say we'll again go to the design ribbon, the package panel, the manage item there, and the manage baselines. Now let's do a show differences again using that baseline. And now, Scott, we've got a couple of different colors popping up here. So, you can see, I think you can imagine what's happened there. I'll move these across a little bit. So the column here of the status, so this isn't the status of the element, this is the baseline status. So don't get those two things confused. This is, so this is saying that space optimization is in the model only. So again, when we click on it, you can see it's got model information about it. You can see the notes there and everything. Nothing in the baseline because it wasn't there when we took the snapshot. These ones here, these two here, were both in the, let me tuck my my toolbox away again, and I'll just click over that, get it out of the way. And this one here has got, in the model, it had reserve parking because we changed it from book parking session. This one here was, we changed the notes, you're aware of that. And this one here, it says, it's in the baseline only. So the right-hand column baseline is filled out, but there's nothing in the model at the moment because we deleted it, right? So let's have a look at this and say we came back to the meeting and we talked to the stakeholders and said, look, we've made those changes. Here they are. And the stakeholders said, look, that change that you made about the display panel, we're not ready to do that multilingual aspect now. We don't want to do that. that will occur later, but it's not a current requirement. So we want to remove that. And so what I can do is select the element, select the change, and here we've got this display panel one, and I can say here refresh, or this option here, merge to model, merge the change from the baseline to the model.
Yep.
So very important to remember, Scott, this isn't a two-way street, it's a one-way street. So this option says merge to model, merge the change from the baseline to the model. So our current model has got things in it. We can't change the baseline. Think about the baseline as being, a photograph.
Set in stone.
Yeah, it's set in stone, it's photographed, you can't change it, but I can go the other way. So let's go, okay, let's do that. So information added since the baseline was created for this item, its contents will be lost. Are you sure? So yes, we are. We don't want that multilingual business in, in there. So we'll go okay to that. That one's disappeared now because it wasn't part of that. It wasn't part of that. There's nothing changed there now. It's the same as the baseline. Here we go. Okay, this was approved here for the reserved parking session. I don't want it to be in the model. It's approved. The baseline, it was in progress. Let's put it back into in progress, and we'll revert that change again. Say okay to that, and you can see now that that's changed that one as well. So this one here, the deleted one. Well, I didn't really mean to delete it. Well, I did delete it, but the stakeholders told me they didn't want it. Now they've changed their mind. Let's put that back from, again, the baseline back into the model. Go okay to that. And now all we've got is this space optimization one as a new one, and we do want to keep that as new. So now the baseline has done its work, and we can go in and look at this display panel. And this one here allows the user to document and displays information relevant to the user. So this was the one that before, remember that there was a spelling difference there, so let's put that back again. And there was something about, we put in about multilingual things, that's gone. System checks, we deleted that item, and now it's back again. And the book parking session, it was, the property was, we made it reserve, and it's gone back to book. So
it gives you a lot of fine-tuned control over changes that are made to the model.
Yeah, exactly, Scott. And the good thing is as well that now that I've made those changes, I've gone through that that whole process. I can now go to the back to the baseline, manage baselines now, and say new baseline. And now I'll call it version 1.1, and I'll say after final sign off. I might put in stakeholder sign off there, so we're completely sure what's going on. And again, the time is there, and I'll put in a dash. I think I had that as my kind of pattern, and now I can go okay to that, and I've got my second baseline. So I'm able to take these sort of photographs and think about it like you were taking a photograph of something over time, and you're just comparing how the thing is at the moment to how it was before, what's changed. So lots of things there. We can look at this options window here. Always expand to differences. That's a useful thing. Show elements that are changed in baseline only, in model only, unchanged elements. Suppress these changes. Diagram, date modified, date created. So we don't really want to, when something's changed its date, we may want to look at that, but quite often we don't want to. We just want to look at that. I'm going to turn off the diagram one there, and we'll make a change to the diagram. So I'll close that for a minute, and we'll go into our requirements times information model one there. Let's just change this location of this one here. We'll bring it over to that side there and save that. Now we'll go back into our baseline. So again, design ribbon, package panel, manage item, back into our baseline, manage baselines, and let's compare that to this baseline here and show the differences. And now you can see that we've got a diagram popping up, and it's changed this check remaining time. If we go and look at that, that was the item, that was the requirement that we changed, and it's moved its position, and you can just look at those coordinates and quickly see what's happened. The visual connector has been changed as well. Its position has moved, and so the geometry is there. This is very fine-grained stuff. That's why before I turn that option off in the the baseline window to hide those things. But you can look at that. I can say change the diagram one off, and now that's gone.
Now that's not there.
Yeah, lots of other options there. This refresh one there. We've got a number of other things. Find in the project browser and log the changes to XML there. So that's the baseline, Scott. Just to make people aware that it's a little bit different to version control, because we do have version control facilities in the tool, which are much more advanced and typically used by technology people rather than business people, although they can be used by anyone. But this baseline feature is a very handy sort of out of the box feature that you can use. But you have to remember that you have to create a baseline. So if you were to do some work and then not create a baseline, and then some time passes and you say, oh, I want to go back to last Tuesday morning at at 11 o'clock because that was when we walked out of that meeting. If you haven't created the baseline, then you're not going to have anything to compare it to. So some good project management, model management practices, create the baselines as you're going. And you could automate some of that features using some of the automation features in Enterprise Architect. And the other thing to remember, Scott, is that we do have a reusable asset server as well. So we haven't talked about that, but there are a number of opportunities to use the reusable asset server for this work as well. The other thing is that if you can't remember where your baselines are, then I can go into the design ribbon here and say find baselines. And so it may be that you can't remember which package was it the requirements model you did? Was it the functional requirements? I can go find in baselines, and you can see there now that those baselines have popped up, and you can see the baseline notes there. Yeah, so that's incredibly useful. And let's just have a look at. Well, we won't actually. We'll look at that at another time. The reusable asset server. There we have that model exchange there. We can actually store baselines in the reusable asset server as well. So this is a server that you can set up to store information that you use multiple times across your project. So imagine you're doing a series of projects and you thought, look, it'd be really good to store these requirements in somewhere where they can be reused across projects. Store it in the reusable asset server, and then anyone, even they're working on the other side of the world, wants to get requirements for an urban parking system or the back-end systems for a hospital, or insurance products or something like that. You can then just reuse those requirements directly from the reusable asset server. Of course, you could just copy them from here as well. You can right mouse click and say copy full structure, but it's useful to have them there in the reusable asset server if you want to. But that's baseline, Scott. Very, very useful feature of the tool to make sure that you can revert back to previous states of not only your requirements, you can use it for any element at all. If you're doing component modeling or Archimate strategies or anything, you can use that baselining feature.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful, and I can imagine, some of your clients might do daily baselines, others might do it weekly, others might create baselines after key meetings with stakeholders. So really powerful fine-grained control over every single change in the model, which I can imagine lots of people would find very, very valuable. To our audience, thank you once again for joining us today. It's great to have you here. As always, if you've liked this video, we encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the Sparx Systems YouTube channel, where you can find hundreds of other videos on a range of different topics related to Sparx Systems products, including Enterprise Architect. If you have any questions about baselines or requirements, modeling and management in general, you can reach out to Stephen using the LinkedIn and website credentials that are listed in the video description below. As always, thanks, Stephen, for showing us how to use baselines, and in particular with requirements. And it's been great that you can see what's been changed, right down to if someone makes some changes to the notes of an element, it highlights what those changes are and gives you a nice comparison between what was in the baseline and what's in the model. So thank you for your expertise and for your time and effort again.
Always a pleasure, Scott.